Imagine standing in the middle of a vast field, no honking cars, no city noise, just stillness. In that moment, you hear a sound so rare and intimate, your heartbeat. When was the last time you truly listened to yourself? This is where my story begins. Like many, I was caught in the whirlwind of endless tasks, emails, meetings, phone calls. Silence wasn't a friend. It was a stranger I feared. The idea of confronting the chaos in my mind terrified me. But one day, I decided to face that fear head-on. I joined a 3-day silent retreat, no phones, no books, no talking. On the first day, it felt unbearable. My mind raced with questions. Why am I here? Am I wasting my time? Can I even endure this? But slowly, silence began to seep into the cracks of my restless thoughts. It forced me to confront my inner fears, my forgotten dreams, and the emotions I had long suppressed. By the second day, I recalled the story of Mahatma Gandhi, a leader who harnessed the power of silence to move nations. He dedicated 1 day each week to silence, using that time to reflect and recharge. If silence could fortify Gandhi to stand against an empire, could it help me find clarity in my chaotic life? Silence, I learned, isn't just the absence of noise. It's the art of listening, not to reply, but to understand. Sitting under the soft morning sun, with nothing but the sound of the breeze, I realized how much I had missed in life by chasing after the noise. As I delved deeper, I discovered how some of the world's most influential people embrace silence as their ally. Steve Jobs often went on solitary walks, and during those moments of silence, he conceived his most groundbreaking ideas. Oprah Winfrey, who has inspired millions, credits daily moments of silent meditation as her key to handling immense pressure. Even Barack Obama, with his calm demeanor, uses deliberate pauses in his speeches to emphasize his points, proving that silence can speak louder than words. For these leaders, silence wasn't just a tool, it was a mentor, a source of inner power. On the final day of the retreat, I reflected on my journey. Silence wasn't the enemy I once thought it to be. It was like a mirror, reflecting both my flaws and my hidden strengths. When I returned home, I began incorporating silence into my daily life. Every morning, I set aside 10 minutes to sit in stillness. During stressful moments, instead of reacting impulsively, I paused, took a deep breath, and allowed silence to guide my thoughts. The results were transformative. I felt calmer, made better decisions, and, most importantly, reconnected with myself. Silence is not something to fear or avoid. It's a teacher, a companion on the journey of self-discovery. In a world that demands us to go faster, achieve more, and be louder, it's often the quietest moments that hold the greatest power. So, I challenge you, give yourself a moment of silence. Just 1 minute. Listen to your breath. Feel your heartbeat. In that moment, you might just find the answers you've been searching for all along. In Buddhism, noble silence, Arya Mauna, is not merely the cessation of speech but a profound state of mental clarity and tranquility. When Buddha referred to noble silence, he emphasized the quieting of the mind, not just the voice. This concept is deeply rooted in the understanding that external silence is only the first step. The true practice lies in achieving mental quietude. Buddha often demonstrated noble silence in his teachings. When faced with metaphysical questions, such as whether the universe is finite or infinite, he remained silent. This was not avoidance but wisdom, signifying that such questions do not lead to enlightenment. His silence encouraged disciples to turn inward for clarity, rather than seeking external answers. A significant distinction exists between physical silence and mental quietude. Physical silence is easily achieved. One can simply stop speaking. However, mental silence, freeing oneself from constant internal chatter and judgment, is far more challenging. This mental stillness is what noble silence seeks to cultivate. Buddhist meditation practices and silence. Buddhist meditation practices like Vipassana and Anapanasati, mindfulness of breathing, are tools to achieve both physical and mental silence. Vipassana, insight meditation, Vipassana focuses on observing the mind and body with impartial awareness. Practitioners sit in silence, paying attention to bodily sensations, thoughts, and emotions without judgment. Through this practice, they learn to detach from their thoughts and emotions, allowing inner silence to emerge. Anapanasati, mindfulness of breathing. This practice involves focusing solely on the breath. By anchoring attention to this simple, natural process, practitioners quiet the mind's tendency to wander. Anapanasati is often seen as a gateway to deeper meditative states, where silence becomes an intrinsic experience. Both practices demonstrate that silence in Buddhism is active, requiring conscious effort and discipline. It is through such practices that one learns to transition from external silence to inner stillness. The story of Siddhartha Gautama's enlightenment under the Bodhi tree illustrates silence as a transformative path. After years of rigorous ascetic practices and intellectual inquiry, Siddhartha realized that external efforts alone could not lead to liberation from suffering. He chose instead to sit silently beneath the Bodhi tree, vowing not to rise until he attained enlightenment. During this period of silence, Siddhartha confronted his deepest fears and desires, symbolized by the demon Mara. His unwavering stillness allowed him to see through the illusions Mara presented, ultimately gaining profound insight into the nature of suffering, dukkha, its origin, cessation, and the path leading to its end. This moment of awakening marked the birth of the Four Noble Truths and the Eightfold Path. Central to Buddhist teachings, the story highlights that silence is not passive but a dynamic state of introspection and courage. Creates space for clarity, enabling individuals to perceive reality without the distortions of ego and attachment. The concept of Shunyata, or emptiness, is closely tied to silence. Emptiness does not mean nothingness, but rather the absence of inherent, independent existence. Everything is interconnected, dependent on causes and conditions. Silence helps practitioners experience this directly, as the absence of noise and distraction reveals the impermanent and interdependent nature of phenomena. For example, the sound of a bell is not intrinsic to the bell itself. It arises from the interaction of the bell, the striker, and the air. In silence, this interdependence becomes clearer. Recognizing Shunyata through silence can dissolve rigid attachments and foster a sense of unity with all beings. Mindfulness, sati, and silence are mutually reinforcing. Silence creates an environment where mindfulness can flourish, allowing practitioners to observe their thoughts and feelings without being overwhelmed. In turn, mindfulness sustains silence by keeping the mind anchored in the present moment. Modern mindfulness practices, inspired by Buddhist teachings, often incorporate silence as a key element. Leaders like Thich Nhat Hanh emphasized mindful silence as a way to connect with oneself and the world. He famously said, "Silence is essential. We need silence just as much as we need air, just as much as plants need light." Self-awareness is at the heart of Buddhist practice, and silence is the vehicle that brings it into focus. In the absence of external distractions, individuals confront their habitual patterns of thought, judgment, and reactivity. This confrontation is not easy. It often brings discomfort as one faces unresolved emotions or ingrained beliefs. Yet, it is through this process that transformation occurs. Consider the example of Jack Dorsey, co-founder of Twitter and Square, who regularly attends silent meditation retreats. Dorsey has spoken about how silence helps him identify and break free from mental patterns that hinder creativity and clarity. His experiences mirror the Buddhist understanding that silence is a tool for unraveling the conditioning that binds the mind. Silence in modern contexts. The teachings of silence in Buddhism are increasingly relevant in today's noisy world. People are bombarded with constant information and distractions, leaving little room for introspection. Integrating silence into daily life through meditation, mindful walks, or simply pausing between tasks can offer immense benefits. Global figures like Oprah Winfrey and Elon Musk demonstrate the practical value of silence. Winfrey credits silent meditation for her ability to maintain balance and perspective in a demanding career. Musk, known for his innovative thinking, uses moments of solitude to process complex ideas. Both illustrate how the principles of Buddhist silence can be adapted to modern life. On a personal level, embracing silence has been transformative. I recall a period of immense stress when I turned to silent meditation as a last resort. First, the stillness was overwhelming, amplifying every thought and emotion I had suppressed. But as I persisted, the noise within began to settle. In its place, I found clarity, resilience, and a profound sense of connection to myself and the world around me. Through silence, I learned to approach challenges with greater equanimity and compassion. It became a sanctuary where I could recharge and rediscover what truly mattered. Silence in Buddhism is far more than the absence of sound. It is a dynamic, transformative practice that fosters self-awareness, mindfulness, and insight by embracing noble silence, engaging in meditative practices, and understanding key Buddhist concepts like Shunyata and mindfulness. Individuals can unlock profound inner peace and clarity. In a world that never stops talking, the wisdom of silence offers a timeless path to enlightenment and liberation. Whether through the teachings of Siddhartha Gautama or the practices of modern leaders, the power of silence remains as vital today as it was 2.500 years ago.